Okay, I think I'm going to get started given that we only have an hour and to have a lot of time for questions. So good afternoon and welcome to this informal drop-in session regarding the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system support session. For those who don't know me, my name is Lynn Martinez. I'm a program manager of system planning and program support with Children's Services at the City of Ottawa. It's our pleasure to have you today during these very busy times. We understand you may be in the process of completing your application or making your decision regarding opting into the new plan. So we sincerely appreciate the time and we're here to support you during this process. As people come into the meeting, just a few notes. The microphones and cameras are currently muted, but features will be activated during the questions and answers period. And we encourage you to turn on your cameras if you'd like. We'd love to see you if it's possible. We're recording the session for future reference for those who couldn't attend. We realize this was very short notice sending the invite yesterday, but it is being recorded and will be shared with the other participants that were invited. During the meeting, we may refer to the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare System as the CWELCC or the CWEL, but just so you know what we're talking about if we do mention CWELCC. The 1 hour session will be focused solely on the 22 application process, which has the provincial deadline of November 1st. We won't be talking about the 2023 information because right now we're reviewing what the province has sent us this week, and we will be communicating with the sector in the near future. And last, we may not have all the answers to your questions. I think there are a lot of unknowns, but if we don't have the answers to your questions, we will take it back and we will get back to you and do our best. And we do have quite a few people on the call that will also be able to support any questions that may be outstanding. So now I'd like to invite Jason Sabourin, the Director of Children's Services, to say a few words. Welcome, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us at this session today. I wanted to say a few words. I'll try to keep it short so we can jump into your questions, which is the important piece. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to say a few words by way of introduction with this Canada-wide early learning and childcare system, with obviously the provincial application deadline fast approaching. This deadline does mark a significant milestone as we continue building on our vision for the future together and making childcare more affordable for Ottawa families. Just to note, we have seen a significant increase in local providers opting in with the additional time and clarity for 2022 provided. Agreements are currently being signed and funding is rapidly being issued to providers, and families are starting to receive their rebates and reduced fees. And actually, I saw one of our providers did a survey of their families of what this means to them. And this is really life-changing for many families, especially those that struggle financially through the 0 to 4 years until they enter that school system. So I know many of you are here today, hopefully have plans to opt in by November 1st, and you may even be already working on your implementation plans and how you're going to refund families and reduce fees within those provincial directives. You know, my message at this point to all providers who are expressing concerns around, the unknowns and future phases or the 2023 details is that, I think we all recognize how difficult this is on all of us, and Children's Services has continued to advocate on your behalf to the province. And we've seen, how that works, because even yesterday on Tuesday, the province released some information to give providers some additional assurances for 2023 and to assist you with opting into this new system, which will keep operators for the most part whole financially and give families these important affordability aspects. I almost can't believe that fees are going to be dropping by that much come next year. We're obviously still reviewing the most recent provincial memo, which does state that their 2023 funding approach is designed to ensure consistency and stability for the childcare sector, and that the existing annual childcare funding will largely remain unchanged. Funding allocations to support the implementation of CWELCC will be in addition to the existing annual funding and use similar funding structures and processes as those that exist today. And we're also expecting to get more details from the province with those guidelines and contracts for us in early November. So more to come on the 2023 aspects, but I do think it's reassuring to know that they're more or less keeping the same structure in place to really give us the time that's needed to help the sector with this transformation. And with the potential of how big this transformation is on the sector, building it in phases does allow us to listen, to collaborate, share concerns and ideas with the province, minimize impacts to providers and services, and ultimately build a public system together that we can all be proud of having a hand in for Ottawa families. I do know that the future unknowns do pose challenges, but now is the time to put parents and families first. Children's Services is encouraging all licensed childcare providers to opt in by the November 1st deadline. And the province does want me to reassure everyone that they will stand by us to support financial pressures and stabilize the sector, which we've seen in that memo even on Tuesday. And of course, Children's Services will continue to support you and collectively work on the future unknowns. We've accomplished so much in such a short window of time and through a significant pandemic impact as well. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your commitment and patience during the ongoing period of transition. I know how stressful and challenging it's been, and our work is not without those challenges, but we are doing it so that we can enhance the childcare system, so that we know, because we all know how essential it is for families, both the social and economic well-being of our community. I do know at times the mountain appears high with what we have to take on, but if we do it one step at a time and doing it together, it'll ensure success. So thank you, and back to you, Lynn.
Thank you, Jason, for being here. And Jason will also be available during the question and answers period. So we really encourage you to speak up and ask your question during that time. And I also want to mention we have many members of our Children's Services team. I mentioned it earlier, but I wanted just to take an opportunity if the team wanted to turn on their cameras. They've been working incredibly hard to ensure that all the sector partners are supported through the transformation. Can you put down the slide for a second, Andrea, so you can see a little bit more? Perfect. So in the interest of time, we won't be introducing everyone, but you may recognize many names. And I want to thank them because they've also been the ones monitoring the Children's Services inbox on an hourly, daily basis and looking for all of the answers to your questions. So I just want to thank them. I hope it's nice to see for those of you who don't know the team to put a face to the name. So, okay, so now we can pull the slide deck. I will be brief and provide just an overview of our role for those who may not be as familiar as what Children's Services does. So the Children's Services through the City of Ottawa is the Consolidated Municipal Service Manager, the CMSM, or also known as the Local Service System Manager, responsible for the planning and management of licensed childcare and early learning programs and services. For the CWELCC system, Children's Services is responsible to implement provincial guidelines and establish local policies and procedures, implement an application and approval process, enter into contribution agreements with approved childcare agencies, develop a funding approach, oversee and monitor the system, and report back to the Ministry of Education. And lastly, but most importantly, engage and consult with the childcare and early years sector for system planning. So that's in one slide what we do. I hope it's helpful. And then the next slide, very briefly, we wanted to just, you may not be able to see it really well, but we've also shared this, I think, in a letter, but just a reminder of all of the communications that have been shared. I know it's quite a bit. I think we're going on quite a few months also, but there is a lot of information in those question and answer documents, in those videos. We do know there was a change in August with the new addendum from the ministry, which caused some revisions. But if you do want access to these documents or you haven't received them, we're happy to provide them to you through the Children's Services inbox, and also a new service provider user guide that's been developed for this year. Okay, so I think that's it for slide. So we want to have as much time as possible for questions. This is meant to be an informal get-together. So I will pass it on to Dan Frate, a childcare program development specialist on the team, to host the next part of the session. Thank you very much, everyone. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Lynn. So as Lynn mentioned, we're now going to enter the question and answer period for the remaining amount of time today. So we'll be turning on the microphone video feature, which will take a few seconds to appear on your screen. A few reminders before we start. Please mute your microphone when others are presenting speaking. You may use your video camera when you speak. Again, optional as Lynn mentioned. Please use the raise hand feature icon to raise your hand, and we'll be going down the list. So I'll be, asking people to provide their question based on the list I have here on my screen. And in order to ensure that we're here from as many partners as possible, we'd ask that you keep it to one question and one follow-up question at this time, and then try to keep your questions to within 2 minutes. That would be truly appreciated. Any questions posed in the chat will not be addressed, will only be addressed if time permits. So we will endeavor to answer any questions that are being popped in the chat. If, again, assuming people don't have any questions in person, we'll look to answer those. We also have a team that is monitoring the chat to provide links to documents if needed. So if you have any questions and you post them in the chat, we should be able to support if you're looking for specific information. And one important piece to remember, any questions not answered or any additional questions can always be sent to the Children's Services inbox. I think our team has been as responsive as possible, and I think we're doing a great job. So, and I hope everyone feels the same. But I'll open we'll go ahead and open that chat feature, and I'll wait for the first hand. Okay, so. And if I apologize, if I've reversed your name, or if I butcher your name, please just let me know or restate your name. But I have Niamo Ali first. And I hope I got your name right.
You did. Thank you so
Beautiful.
much. Good afternoon. How's everyone? I don't know if it's from my side, but it's just I'm not able to turn my camera on, but that's fine. We have childcare under the Muslim Association of Canada, which is a private school located in Ottawa. We have been struggling to contact and get hold of somebody to speak to in the Children's Services. This process is new to us. Also that there was a change that the person who used to help us from the city has been changed to another person. So my question is there a policy that you guys will only answer questions via email? Is there a way to contact and speak to, whether it's virtual or over the phone with a person? I'm sure every daycare's needs is unique and ours is unique as well. So 3-4 months we were trying to get hold of somebody to talk to in person or virtual, and we were not able to. So is that possible?
Maybe Dan, I can jump in just to give a bit of context. So as I'm sure everyone's been experiencing, we've been all overloaded with work. So in Yamo, we tried to centralize our supports. We were trying to get everyone to submit questions through our inbox because we just didn't have the human capacity to offer 165 organizations in Ottawa the one-on-one support that we wanted to provide everyone. So we found that the centralized approach and providing FAQs and then having sessions like today to try to give that support. So you are absolutely right. Everyone has individual circumstances. But with the demands and the changing province guidelines, we just weren't able to do that because what we kind of had to split up our team into the different pieces of what has happened with CWELCC. So we're happy to answer any questions you have today. I'm sure the team can loop back with the email address and the application that you need to fill out. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to have them today.
I can ask the first question. I mean, I have few. That's why I don't want to take over the meeting, but that's why I wanted to on the side, to speak to somebody else. But if you want to take questions, we do have one or two. One of the first question is that we've been planning to increase the daycare fees from the beginning, and then COVID hit. We froze our fees to just wait the 2 years, 3 years and a half COVID to pass. We had drafts to act on increasing those fees, and then this new, initiative came. So when it comes to writing down a bottom line of how much we charge per child, can we still go to the initial proposal that we have to increase our fees, or we're still stuck with where we were before COVID?
Yeah, and I know we're kind of going by the slide. Do you want me to answer that one too? I mean,
sure,
I don't
by
mind.
all means, and I can sure, and I'll supplement anything if necessary.
Yeah. So,
nothing.
the guidelines and the regulations are pretty clear from the province, right? That the March 2020 fees are frozen. If there was a communication prior to that to parents about a fee increase, then you can. But otherwise, no, the province has locked those fees in per the regulation. So we need to know what those fees were in March 2020, to calculate all this. Now the province is looking at obviously cost escalations since then. And sorry, I'm saying 2020, it's 2021. I'm losing track of my years. So they are looking at 2023 with trying to provide additional funding to reflect that there's been cost increases to running childcare centers.
Jason, in addition to some of the additional funding supports that we'll be providing, right, ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, assuming if people currently get general operating, there's some funding there, and we're looking at every possible way we can support as well with additional cost for this year. The province has given us a bit of guideline flexibility within there to help, because we all understand that there's been additional demands and cost increases since people have been locked in. So we are working on those pieces as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Did you have a follow-up question as well? And if you wanted to share with us the name of your agency, I believe I know which agency you're with, but we could have your specialist also reach out to you.
Sure. Yeah, it's MAC Preschool and Childcare.
Yeah. Okay.
MAC
great.
Preschool, MAC MAC, which is Muslim Association of Canada, Ottawa location.
Beautiful. Did you have a follow-up or?
I know that when we read the papers, there are bottom lines that you guys have. So are we at least to qualify that per hour, or because hours right now, it's way below that?
Are you talking about your base rate? Just
Yes.
for clarity?
Yes.
So in your application, when you're submitting your application, you're going to be submitting your current rates as approved by the city for subsidized families that you might have, and then your full fee rates in accordance with what you're charging as of March 27th. Sorry, can someone confirm the date? Was March 27th? Yes, thank you. March 27th, 2022. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll move to the next individual, and it's Vanessa. And again, Vanessa, if you'd like to share with which agency you're representing, that would be amazing in case there's any follow-up needed. But if you're not comfortable, that's also fine.
Hi there. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes,
I'm calling from Children on the Hill. My question, we're pretty much done our application, but it pertains to specifically the liability section. We applied for the COVID small business loan, as many businesses did. And we did receive that. However, it's something that starts being paid next year. We are still liable for it currently, but would we be able to include it in our 2022 application, or it would be something we put in next year?
Would you like me to jump in, Jason?
If you want, Dan, I may need some clarity on that,
Yeah.
Vanessa, in the sense of, are you talking like another revenue source that you're getting? Is that what you're trying to do, or?
It was a one-time COVID small business loan, just to help people get through COVID, and obviously daycares were closed, so or many daycares were closed for a period of time. So it was just to kind of help us get through that period, and there was something on it that meant that we only had to start paying as of 2023. But it is a loan that it was a one-time loan and we did receive it. So we are still liable to pay it back, but it only starts in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the important thing for everyone to realize is this whole process is really being dictated around the rates, right? The locked in rates. So, you can include it into your budget if that's what you're asking for. We're really trying to give you the funding to drop those existing rates and give families back. Like I can tell you, it's not really driven on the budget process at this point in time. It's really giving you the money to drive those rates down and to backtrack it to April. So, the existing fees that you've been locked into from the province is really the important piece of information that we need. So you can include it into your budget.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
The other piece on that, Vanessa, if it's 2023 funding, we're currently dealing with 2022. So I don't know how it was provided to you in 2022 for 2023. You may be wanting to show that on your 2023 budget maybe next year, but like Jason said, we'll leave that to your best
Okay,
practice.
perfect. Yeah, we do already have the money. It's just we have to start paying it back in 2023.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
So I'll link it to some of the things the province said in 2023 in case it helps. I mean, obviously we're waiting for a lot of information, but that could be a good example of cost increases that providers are experiencing, whether it's salary, food, loans, right? Like these are the things that they're trying to address in their 2023 funding. So they gave some assurances that there will be additional funding provided in 2023. But it is still going to be more than likely based on the rates and how that is, like the calculation. So that's what it'll probably be still dictated on, and that's my assumption. Like I said, we're waiting on additional information on 2023, but for this year, it's you can include it in your budget, but really, like I said, it's around the rates.
Perfect. Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up question, Vanessa?
No, that's it for my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nazra, I hope once again I pronounced your name properly, and by all means, please feel free to share what agency you're with.
Hi, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I am working in filling up the application, and in the section number 4, agency budget and information, it says your agency will need to provide information, financial information based on the year 2022 budget. So this from which month to which month, or this will be from January to December?
Jason, would you like me to jump in, or would you like to address that one?
Yeah, those technical ones, Dan, I'm going to need someone on the team to jump in on.
Absolutely. So, Nazra, we're looking from January to December. You're in a really good position now because we're in October, so you might even be able to consider, doing actuals for your budget. So you would already have a budget for 2022, most likely created. So you can consider using actuals from January 1st to end of September or even October at this point, and then forecast the remaining 2 months for November and December. But again, the time period is January 1st, 2022 out to December 31st, 2022. So this year's budget.
Okay, thank you so much.
For your whole organization, not by program. I hope that helps as well.
Yep, that's good. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Do you have another question?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Vanessa, I still see a hand up. It might be a phantom from last time around, or do you have another question?
Sorry, that is just from last time.
Beautiful. It's okay. Don't be sorry. I'm currently, other than Nazra, who I think is the same situation as Vanessa. Oh, we have a question here coming from Lee. Lee, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm from Rural Family Connections. So you tweaked something for me. When I was doing my budget, I was basing it on the 2 programs that are qualified for CWELCC. I wasn't putting my early on into there, but I am putting my early on, like I'm doing my overall RFC budget to you guys.
That's a great question. And I probably could have taken it a little further. So early on is not included in your budget. Okay. So it's childcare funding only. You did a great job, Lee.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any follow-up question? Okay. Thanks again for your question. Next on the list is Niamo. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was just trying to lower it so you don't get confused the second time. So just being productive.
Thank you.
Following up the question about the budget on section 4, you said it's an entire organization, and I'm following up this question because Nasra and I work in the same organization. That Muslim Association of Canada is a big organization that owns a lot of childcare. So what I thought when you're talking about section 4, budget information with City of Ottawa funding, subsidy, staff salary, non-staff salary, utility, all of that, program expense. I thought it's specific to MAC preschool and childcare. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct. You're exactly right. All your childcare programs in Ottawa, local childcare programs. So
Okay,
thank you for that further clarification.
Not the entire organization.
No, I apologize if that if I threw people off with that comment, but it's definitely childcare only, and it's all your local childcare here in Ottawa. Thank you for the follow-up.
Thank you.
So we still have close to 30 minutes, I believe. I believe this session's going to 2 o'clock. Someone can correct me if I'm mistaken. Oh, we have a hand. Diana, please.
Thanks, Jan. So I'm from Ville Center. I guess I just wanted to let you know that we are very close to submitting. So I guess I'm just wondering if we do have other questions, like, are we better now to just also submit? And the city gives you a little bit of time to also come back to us, because I know we're getting close to the deadline. So I'm just worried I don't want to get more, I felt almost ready to submit, and now I don't want to get confused and not submit. Am I good to just submit and you'll come back to me? Does that make some sense?
Yeah, I can probably jump in on that, Dan. I mean, so from my perspective, it's always from my perspective is yes. I mean, make sure you submit by November 1st. Technically, legally speaking, you're not opted in until you sign a contract, but we need, that application filled out by the provincial deadline. So then the timer ticks on the rest of the thing. So we still have to sign an agreement. You may have questions on those, so there's absolutely time after the application to kind of, answer any of those questions relating to funding, contracts, and all that stuff. So I would vitally say it's important to get it in as soon as possible, especially because of even this 2023 dynamic that we're expecting to get more information in November that I think all of us are going to have to pivot to as well soon on these further, because 2023 is right around the corner. So the quicker we can get this going, obviously it's going to benefit families quicker, but there's also these other phases that the provinces has kind of come down on, and they haven't been, super great at giving us a lot of time to do some of these things. So I am concerned, obviously, for the last part of the year and getting into January around what that's going to mean when we see their guidelines. So I think the sooner everyone could put their application in with the pertinent information that we need, and we still have ability to answer questions after that.
Perfect. And I guess just a quick follow-up then on our end, knowing that we are, our families are all fully subsidized that attend, but some of them would have partial fees. My understanding is, unfortunately, that's really going to fall on the city and Children's Services, right, working on that refunds. So I don't know if there is anything on our part. I do know of the deadline for the 21st this week to make sure everyone's placements are updated. But if there is anything else that we can do, because it will be really great to be able to reimburse for those families. So I am sensitive. We want to try and get those refunds going, but I don't know if there's anything from us or agencies with subsidies, or if it's fully done on the end of Children's Services.
Yeah, Diana, you're pretty much absolutely right. I mean, Ottawa actually is very unique across the province, where we took that administrative piece off the agencies with fee subsidy. So we collect and the parental contribution. So we will be refunding parental contributions once we have a signed agreement with people. So there could be a mix for some providers in the sense of you have full fees, you have subsidies, and so we'll be processing the subsidized pieces. If you have full fees, which your center, you probably don't, but if someone else may have that, so they would be processing the full fees, and at the end of the day, all the families get the refunds that are needed for them.
Okay. Well, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Diana. So basically, the sooner you can get us your application, the better. And then we have opportunities. Our colleagues have been, following up where necessary, or asking us to follow up where necessary, and your specialist has generally been reaching out if necessary. So thank you. Nemo, is that a previous hand, or is that a new hand?
It's actually a new hand.
Beautiful.
I told you I have a lot of questions.
No, it's okay. That's what we're here for. And then Lee's after you. So we have, there's only the two of you at the moment.
Lise, you can go ahead.
Quick question. So we're not getting all our private information that quickly. What happens if by the time, because this is what's kind of holding me up, what happens at the time of application if we don't have all the private numbers? Will you guys just step in and deal with the providers and getting those refunds for those parents? Because there's only so much we can do, and we've requested from both the parent and the provider the information on their private stuff because we don't have that, but we're not getting all the information we require back.
So Lee, just to clarify, you're talking home providers that have private children?
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if someone can help with like the question on like the average fees that we need, because we obviously need to know the average fees.
We don't know the average fees though. We could have a private child having $25 and another having 60.
No, I know that. I guess like it's a similar problem. Like we need to know it to be able to fund you, and you need to know it to fill out the application. So we need that information in the application on the average fees. But I wasn't sure if there was someone that could speak to like the how to calculate kind of or put in the average fees. Because at the end of the day, right, I hope people have this appreciation. Like this revenue replacement model has to be built on what parents are paying now, and the money is intended to give money back to parents and then drop the fees. So, this, no matter what we allocate to people, it has to be based on that. It's not like this is, extra funding like general operating, right? This is for an intended purpose to drop the fees and give it back to parents. So really what this revenue replacement model is just to replace the cash. So yeah, I wasn't sure if anyone could speak to kind of that.
I think I could help a bit, Jordan, excuse me. I think I could help a bit, Jason. I apologize for that. So basically we use the term average in the application, right? And so we want to make sure that when we're saying average, you're not adding up, 3 fees and then dividing by 3 and that's your average. Like you can estimate to a certain extent of what those fees are. And I'm talking about if it's getting close to the November 1st deadline and you're really stressing out and you're not getting that information. And there's also been an escalation piece added into the application where we make sure that agencies, whether it be childcare or home childcare agencies, are receiving enough money to support with the reimbursement. I think Jason and I would both agree that the best bet would be to get that information, Lee, but if you find yourself stuck, then look at doing that average that you think is reasonable for your home childcare providers. Does that help?
Yep, thank you.
Great. So did you want to jump in, Niamu?
Yes, thank you. So I have two questions. One is about the budget and one is about the staff. Actually, not the budget, but the general process. Some of daycares in Ontario, we noticed that in order to opt in, they just fill in a simple form and done with. And some other childcare, like ours in Ottawa, are being asked to do a budget information. It seems like a bit more information. So I'm just wondering what the difference is and if we have to go through this process and or just submit the opt-in form first. So that's one question. The second question is on section 4 about the staff. It talks about the staff salary must be included, and also it talks about non-program staff. So our childcare is located in a school. So when the administration gets heavy, the percentage of principal's work gets into the childcare documentation, as well as our finance person and office admin. So can this be considered non-staff? So those are the two questions I have.
Dan, maybe I can start. You can fill in any blanks. So there's always going to be differences across municipalities. We've tried to make this as simple as possible. I do know some other areas put out like an initial survey to say, hey, what's your intention of opting in? So, there was that check mark. We didn't take that approach in Ottawa, partly because of the September 1st deadline originally, and we wanted to make sure we got the process going with the application, which is streamlined as much as possible to the information we need. And like I said, the major component of the application that we need is what your fees are, because we don't know sometimes what those fees are. So we need you to tell us, like, further regulations, what are those fees. The budget, is kind of just a check mark for us to verify, like, does this make sense, and to kind of check in. So, you don't have to, do a lot of due diligence trying to break it down, because we're basing it on your rates and your license capacities. And then at the end of the day, this is going to be around giving back that fee, 25% to families. So, complete the budget as quickly as possible. Don't go into a lot of like allocations and stuff to try to think that this is going to increase the funding, because we will make sure everyone's kept whole from that 25% piece through this mechanism. And if there's issues with the allocation, because we're trying to get the money and the cash out to people soon and fast, this was the quickest way. Our contract and everything is actually very streamlined as well. So once you complete the application, this is going to start going fast, and then there'll be some work on the back end to make sure we can verify that the money was used for the intended purpose, like it is kind of our normal processes. So I don't know if that helps, but like I said, the key piece of the application, what we need is the rates. And I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the wage question that you had. Maybe you can ask again. Niamo, do you mind refreshing my memory on what your wage question was?
Yes, it's this on section 4 talks about the staff salaries. So I understand the daycare staff, but also when the administration of this funding and the process and reimbursing later on gets a bit more hands-on, because the daycare is located in a school, we have usually a time from our finance person to issue those checks and process, a principal to authorize. So we have at least 3 other staff from the school to support the childcare. Can those be counted as the non-program staff? And kind of like what percentage kind of?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to throw that to my team members if they've experienced that question.
Sure, thank you. In the section of the application, it's somewhat clear, and I find it clear because I want to say it's really clear, but I've been working with it for a while. But I think this might be one of those better questions where you might want to have a chat with your specialist to give you more detail on that. Like, very much it says, like similar to what WEG is, the individuals have to be RECs or ECs, and then if they're non-program staff, that they have to be actually participating in program. So similar to wage enhancement. So, but I would highly recommend that you connect with us, and we can dive into more what the job description is and what the positions are, and if they're actually supporting in program versus what supports they're providing. And if they're agency staff as well, right?
And I think, yeah, and I think this is where the challenge comes. It's like, those questions that lead like 2-3 other questions is like, what if this is true, then that could happen. And that's why we wanted to have a conversation with someone to get it going.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that would be the best route, because there always it depends, right? Jason, did you want to jump in?
I just wanted some clarity, Niamo, if you could. Are you talking about the wage floor program, or are you talking more from a budget perspective, allocating like those costs into the administration of running the centers?
Budget perspective.
Okay. Yeah. So again, I mean, I wouldn't spend too much time on it. You can absolutely, whatever your organization does from an accounting perspective, right? If you're allocating costs to the program because of that, I would follow that and put that into your budget.
Yeah. Agreed. If it's from a budgeting perspective, absolutely agree. Okay, so we're at 139. I'm not certain if there have been any questions. Well, I'll ask one last time to see if anyone else has any additional questions, and I don't see any more raised hands, but I'd love to know if there's anything in the chat that we may want to address or that hasn't been addressed yet.
I would like to apologize for using the wrong dates at the start.
Nothing in the chat. Okay. Well, I feel like a bit of a auctioneer, but I'll ask if there's any questions going once, any questions going twice, any questions 3 times. I'm not seeing any hands, nothing in the chat. I have a closing comment, but Jason, did you want to share anything with the group?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've been in contact with our advisory group, and some of you are part of that too. And so, we have heard throughout this whole process that the timing was the biggest issue. We've been articulating that to the province. We also heard that, once you get into the application, it is actually fairly straightforward. And then we heard once once people got into it with the contracts, very straightforward, and we've done a lot of improvements to our contribution agreement and everything. So you are going to get the money fast. The other thing I was going to mention, one of our advisory group members made this comment at the start, is this whole program was like trying to build the plane at the same time we've been flying it, and there's been so many changes, and I know how hard that is on the sector as well, because you all don't have capacity to run the centers and keep up with the daily challenges and then fill out these applications and that. But if there is any supports or any tools or anything that you guys need to help with this process, please let us know, because at the end of the day, like I said, I think this is the time that we need to, put this in place for families. There's so much potential and opportunities with building this sector up and making it stronger. And this is like the first opportunity where we're going to have to build a public system, and it's going to come with some significant transformation and changes. But I do appreciate, obviously, the province taking a pause for next year almost and keeping with the same, so it buys us some time to consult with our sector in line with our service plan that we talked about and really build this together. So please continue to reach out to my team if you do have questions. I know how challenging this is just because of the timing the province has put on everyone, but it's so vitally important we get everyone what they need to make that decision. And as I kind of said, it's also important to get it in as soon as possible, because we do suspect there will be questions throughout the year, the rest part of this, as you get into the implementation, that we'll have to help with. So please let us know questions at that email inbox. And like I said, any tool supports, anything. We've been asking the advisory group as well the last few months if there was anything missing, and most of the feedback was it was just time. People needed time to fill it out. So I've been articulating to the province, that people needed the time. We've been hearing most people just needed the time to get to November 1st. So this is kind of why we were having these sessions, is just to kind of that last effort to give everyone that information they need. But definitely understand the complications and the challenges everyone is experiencing with this CWELCC implementation. So I'll wrap it up there, Dan.
Thank you, Jason. And Lynn, thumbs up from your end?
Yes, I think very well said, and the email address is there. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone who attended today. Please continue to send your questions to the Children's Services inbox, and we wish everyone an amazing afternoon. Thank you.